Hey, Lance Egan here with Fly Fish Food with a new skill builder, number 2. You won't miss any of these skill builders, both tying and fishing, if you subscribe to our channel right now. That said, this week we're going to cover handling fish in the net, reading winter water, and we're going to tackle mending the line and show you ways that that can improve your catch rate.
That's a big brown bro.
All right, one of our tips that seems really simple, but most people never think about, is you don't really have to reach your hand into the net to handle a fish. In fact, it's probably better for the fish to leave them in the net and handle them through the net. This works on a rubberized net, it works on a full rubber net, so if you've got a fish pond net or something like that, just hold the fish in the net itself, and then you can easily take the barbless hook out with your other hand. I'm not really even touching the fish that way, and then I can easily slip him back into the water and send him back to feed and be caught another time. All right, when you're reading water in wintertime, you're looking for a few things. Number one, generally speaking, slower water and a bit of depth. So the river here to my right, although it probably has a few fish in it, is not very good winter water. This would be really fun to fish in the summertime. Lots of pockets, lots of riffly water, especially if the level of water came up a little bit. This would be a great place to spend some time. But during winter, we're looking for slower, deeper stuff. Let's go find some. All right, we moved a few steps upstream to a little bit slower section. Although I wouldn't call most of this A water, you know, it's not the very best winter water. This definitely has some potential. It's a little more flat, it's slower, it's got a nice break up here in the current that's creating a seam, a pocket in the middle, a very large pocket that's significantly slower. Better yet, the deeper, slower water just above the weir and on the far side over by those large rocks. But still, there's better water to be found. All right, we moved upstream a little bit more and found some A water, some really good winter water. If you watch carefully, you'll even see quite a few fish rising in the background. Some on the flat, some right where the bumpy water ends, some on the inside. There are lots of fish stacked in water like this in the wintertime. Now, that doesn't mean you have to just sit in a pool like this, but this is the type of water you want to target. And after you've worn through a section like this, you caught a few fish, you wore them out, they're no longer rising, or your nymph catch rate is slowing down, then it's best to move upstream and find more deep, slow stuff just like this. A water. All right, the next skill I want to go over with you is a topic called mending. What is mending? Mending simply is repositioning the line. You can mend up, you can mend down, you can mend across, you can stack mends. There's all kinds of different mending, but in a nutshell, a mend is simply just repositioning the line. So why do you need to mend? Well, mending is really important for lots of techniques. You're going to use it with streamers, with dries, with nymphing, drying a dropper, even wet flies. All of those techniques, with all those techniques, there's an advantage to mending. Mending is used to get a drag-free drift, to speed up a retrieve, to slow down a retrieve, to slow down a swing, to speed up a swing, etc., etc. And it's not consistent. You don't have to always mend one direction. So most people are used to mending upstream, but there are also situations where it's advantageous to mend downstream. So now that we kind of understand what a mend is, a simple reposition of the line, let's talk about just how to execute a mend. So first you have to have made a cast. So I've made a nice little roll cast out here, and when my cast lands, if I don't do anything with it, my fly is going to get dragged because I've got faster current between where I'm trying to fish and my fly. So what we're going to do is send a cast out and immediately throw an upstream mend that adds slack into the system. That allows my fly a much longer drag-free drift. To do this mend, all we have to do, send it out, lift the line up, send a little bit of a rod flick upstream in this case, or if we were trying to do a downstream, we would lift and flip line downstream. You can mend up or down, and you can send quite a bit of slack at your line. You can mend it upstream this way, you can send a mend right at your fly. We can stack mends just downstream of an indicator. There's all kinds of ways to do it. For me, the number one key to mending is lifting first, then repositioning the line. When I watch people try and mend that are struggling with it, usually it's just because they're just flicking their rod tip right here and they're not lifting line first. The water tension is keeping some stick, some grab on your fly line. So as you throw a cast, if you don't lift it to break that surface tension first, the line doesn't want to move as easily. If you give it a little bit of lift, lift that line off the water first, then send the mend, it goes out quite easily. If I do it incorrectly and just flick the line, it doesn't move as much line by just flicking the rod tip. We need to lift first, then reposition line. First I showed you some mends with just a simple dry fly, and now I've added a strike indicator just to kind of demonstrate what happens with the indicator. If I don't mend at all and I just make a straight cast over here, as soon as that indicator lands, the conflicting currents between myself and where I'm trying to fish add a little bit of drag to that rig. So I've got slower current here that ends up pulling my rig downstream. If I make the same cast but then throw a bit of a mend, I can allow my nymphs time to get down, and I'm also getting the indicator to drift a fair bit slower. So this is crucial to nymph fishing. You throw the cast out, you throw a mend upstream, and if you really want to buy time for your nymphs to get down, you can not only just mend to the indicator, but you can actually get the nymphs to land out here first and then throw the indicator back upstream and really allow those flies to get to depth really quickly. Now I've introduced slack, so I got to take some of that slack out, but I'm getting a nice long drag-free drift. So again, it's as simple as making the cast, lifting the line, and sending slack where you want it to go with the rod tip. Lift first, then flick and reposition the line. Now in some situations, like we mentioned, you may want to mend downstream. That wouldn't be in this case because of the currents here, but there are situations like if I'm fishing a faster edge and I'm standing in slower water instead of the opposite of that, like this, then I may need to actually, like this guy right here, this little pocket, if I end up with my indicator right on that seam, I might need to actually mend my line downstream to keep that drifting along. If I don't make that same mend, it's going to start getting drag. My flies are now in a different current than my indicator. The flies are downstream and it's getting some drag, versus if I go here and I actually mend downstream, just reposition, or if you're fishing really close, you can also just high stick. But mending is crucial to your success, and it really helps you get a drag-free drift.